Hey, I'm Foxy from Love Life Matters, and I have a really important message to give to you today. And that is, in due of the current world events that are going on right now, is just to be really mindful of not living your life out of fear. Because when we're growing up, we're told what to do, and we learn to live by rules that are set by other people, and becomes a way of life for us. So I just want to share something with you about my life so you can understand where I'm coming from. So growing up, I grew up with a mother that was labelled as manic depressive, schizophrenia, bipolar, and she was scary to be around. I learned this as an adult, realizing that when she was not on her medication, she was extremely scary to be around, and you just didn't want to be anywhere near her. And this is what I was subjected to growing up as a child. And the only way that I could get around that was simply to shut down myself, be the good girl, do as I'm told, not say a thing, don't retaliate, do as I'm told, live by what my mother said. Otherwise, I would be the end of her wrath, which was not where you want a young child to be. So this is how I grew up, and became part of the strategy that I lived my life, coming from this place of fear, because that's what I learned as a young child. And then when I was about age 11, my parents became involved in a religion, more like a cult, really. And once again, my life became a whole lot more restrictive, because what happens is the church, they had certain doctrines of what you did do and what you didn't do. And my whole life was around living according to what the authorities said, for your good. Because the thing is, if you didn't obey God's word as they put it and as they interpreted it, then you would go to the lake of fire when you died. And of course, this was a whole place of me living from fear again. And it certainly wasn't helpful in expressing myself and doing the things that I wanted to do, because I was too scared to do these things. So for example, we were told to just associate within the church. Anyone outside the church was heathen. And if I did associate with anyone outside the church, it's like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I feel guilty. And of course, if you broke any rules by the authorities, the retribution was you'd be disfellowshipped. You'd be put out of the church. And that would be shame. Shame on you. So this was a place that I had to overcome. And what happened in my early 30s is the church actually changed its doctrines. The leader of the church died, and the leadership was passed on to others. And then they declared, well, we don't actually believe in what we believe in anymore. This is what we now teach. So here I was left thinking, going, I believed in this way of life. I believed I'm doing the right thing, keeping the Sabbath, not working on the Sabbath, and all sorts of restrictive things and decisions that I'd made along the way. For example, I didn't go and do athletics because it was on the Sabbath, and then I didn't go become part of the school play because the show was on the Sabbath. So lots of decisions that I made, and one of those decisions was around being an exotic dancer. So when the church changed its doctrines, I was left going, well, what is true? Here I am believing all of this stuff of what the authorities have told me, and the consequences if I didn't obey. I'm going, well, that's not true anymore. So I'd been living my life out of fear. And I realize now that out of those fears, my choices were restricted. I was living from scared of running away and not being empowered at all, and just simply living by what someone else told me that I should be living by, and listening to someone else. So then I became an exotic dancer because the church no longer had the rules there for me. But the thing is, I was left feeling with that shame, that fear, that guilt was still residing in my body. So it took me a while of processing and embracing those feelings within myself that helped me move through that and not hold those in my body anymore. And so that affected every part of my life. It affected every way that I felt. So until I actually worked through that fear, shame, guilt, it just permeated in my relationships, in decisions I made, until I worked through that. So what I'm saying here is just be careful where you're making your decisions from. Is it fear or is it out of love? Because when we come out of fear, we lose choice. And we go into that primal part of our brain where we're scared, we want to run and not face anything because we fear the consequences of what we think those consequences might be. Whether they're true or not, we still fear them because we're running from that adrenaline that's in our body, and we can't stop and think about it when we're coming from fear all the time. So until you make peace with yourself and the fear that's within you, then your choices are not going to be empowered, and you're going to keep running scared. And it's certainly what we've been taught by others, you know, what's on the media and things like that is just, it's feeding into our fear. So as long as we keep feeding our fear, we're going to get more fear and more fear. And it's not until we stop and realize, well, hang on a minute, do I have choice here? So food for thought. I'd love to know your comments, let me know, and feel free to share this if this resonates with you. Thanks for watching. Foxy from Love Life Matters.